The play begins with three witches stirring up some trouble on the beaches of... Then we meet Duncan the king, who's on a big military campaign. Turns out Macbeth and his best friend Banquo are generals who have just defeated two opposing armies. On their way back to camp, Macbeth and Banquo come across the witches, who can see the future, and tell Macbeth that he's going to be Thane of Glamis and Thane of Cawdor. No big deal, until they tell him he will also become king. Macbeth doesn't believe it, and Banquo, well, he's kinda ticked. Turns out the witches are on the right track, and Duncan's men show up to announce that because of his military success, Macbeth is now both Thane of Glamis and Cawdor. Curious as to whether the rest of the prophecy might come true, Macbeth invites Duncan to dinner, then writes to his wife to tell her what happened. Lady Macbeth figures it's time to make their own luck, and suggests they kill the king and take the throne as their own.
Act 1, Scene 4 starts with Duncan wanting to know about the execution of the Thane of Cawdor, and Malcolm tells him, if we pick it up from the fourth line of Malcolm's speech, he confessed his treasons, implored your highness's pardon, and set forth a deep repentance. Nothing in his life became him like the leaving it. So he did nothing in his life that made him look as good as he did when he died, when he was saying everything he'd done wrong. He died as one that had been studied in his death to throw away the dearest thing he owed, as it were a careless trifle. Duncan's response is one that is a commonly quoted line from Macbeth. There's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. So there's no one can master the ability to know what is going on in someone's mind by looking at their expression. And that's why Cawdor was able to act like he was loyal to the king and then go against him. There's some foreshadowing happening here. Later Duncan will be killed, and this line would be applicable there as well. There's no way he could have known that by looking at Macbeth he was going to be the man that would kill him and take his throne. The line also lines up there, as you can see, with the earlier lines that talk about deception. Fair is foul and foul is fair, and so fair and foul a day I have not seen, which was from Macbeth. Duncan goes on to explain to us how loyal Macbeth is. Again, this adds to our understanding of Macbeth as a good and loyal and noble man, not simply a villain. The sin of my ingratitude, even now, was heavy on me, so I can't thank you enough. I haven't thanked you enough, and I feel bad for not showing my gratitude. If we skip down to the last line, more is thy due than more is thy due than more than all can pay. So Macbeth is due more money than anyone could pay him if he were to be rewarded properly. And Macbeth's response again shows how humble, and it's everything you would expect from this perfect role model of a human being, which at the end of the day he is a human being, and that's what we see is unravelling because he's not perfect. The service and the loyalty I owe in doing it pays itself, so I'm simply happy enough to do the service because it's what I owe. Your Highness's part is to receive our duties, and our duties are to your throne and state children and servants, which do but they should, and by doing everything safe toward your love and honour. If we skip further on in the scene, we have Duncan announcing that Malcolm will be the next king after him, and this is where Macbeth we start to see that he's really holding on to that idea of himself being the king. It's not just something that these crazy witches told him. He's sort of holding on to that now. It's a step on which I must fall down or else overleap, for in my way it lies. This line here that we highlight is a great indicator of Macbeth's ambition. Macbeth's ambition is ultimately his weakness. Just getting a message in there from Mr. Stefan for the big match on the weekend. And so this line, stars hide your fires, let not light see my black and deep desires. So he hasn't had any, we can often look at Lady Macbeth as convincing Macbeth to commit murder, but before he has even spoken with Lady Macbeth, Macbeth's ambition is already creeping in.
Left of the fourth, Miami leads by 2.
Scene 5, we meet Lady Macbeth, crucial Lady Macbeth. She's reading a letter that Macbeth has sent ahead, basically telling her about meeting the weird sisters and the promises they made, telling him that he would be the Thane of Cawdor and that he will be the king. Lady Macbeth's instant response, Glamis thou art, and Cawdor, and shalt be what thou art promised. Straight away, she's very strong in her words. You shall be what you are promised. There's no doubt in her mind that her and Macbeth will make this happen. Yet do I fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way. There's already this painting of something that we consider good, human kindness, as a negative. She fears his nature. It is too full of kindness to catch the nearest way. You're too kind to do what is necessary to become king soon. You wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it. What thou wouldst highly, thou wouldst holily. Would not play false, and yet would wrongly win. At the start of this quote, thou wouldst be great, we think of wouldst as in the word will, or to will for something. So you want to be great, and you're not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it. What you want highly, you want holily, and you would not play false, and yet would wrongly win. So if we go through that line by line, you have that you want to be great, and you're not without ambition. She's listing off the good things that she likes about Macbeth, but you are without the illness, or the nastiness, or the ability to go against moral judgment. You lack that illness that should attend it. What thou wouldst, or what you want highly, what you want a lot, you also want holily. You want to do it the right way. You wouldn't cheat, but you would wrongly win. So you're happy to have this kingship which doesn't belong to you, but you don't want to play false. She's really picking at making weaknesses or picking out his weaknesses to make him follow her orders. Throughout the play, there is a constant reference to fortune or fate, luck. And here is just another example of that. Fate and metaphysical aid doth seem to have the crowned withal. So fate already seems to point to you becoming the king, points to you being crowned. And so does the metaphysical, or the supernatural, as we'd say today. So the witches would have you crowned king, and as Lady Macbeth says, fate would have you crowned king as well. Lady Macbeth hears news that Duncan will be staying at their castle tonight, and again her response is instant. The raven himself is hoarse that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan. So not only has she decided that they will kill Duncan for Macbeth to become king, but now it seems that that is going to happen while Duncan is staying at the castle. She then makes a plea to the spirits of the world, so we're thinking about the things like witchcraft, dark powers, and asks to have any sort of conscience removed from her, any feeling of remorse. So fill me from the top, crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty, make thick my blood, stop up the access to passage to remorse, that no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose. I don't want to be shaken from what I'm doing, nor keep peace between the effect and it. Come to my woman's breast and take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers. Just take a moment to think about that line. She's using some pretty intense language here, and not the kind of thing you'd hear in a nightly prayer before bed. Come thick night, and pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes. So surround me in darkness, so that I don't see the effect of my actions. My keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, hold, hold. So don't let me see anything of goodness, don't let me see anything heavenly that tells me that I'm doing the wrong thing. Hide away all of that conscience. So she's aware that they're doing something evil, and she's making this prayer to the dark powers to be made completely evil. Lady Macbeth's instructions to Macbeth are another example of that motif of deception coming through. Look like an innocent flower, but be the serpent under it.
When everyone's in bed that night, Macbeth goes kind of crazy and starts to see things like floating daggers around his castle. Nevertheless, he stabs Duncan and frames the guards for the murder, then kills them later in a false rage. Duncan's sons flee out of fear and Macbeth becomes king, but he's not very well liked. Fearing Banquo will take over the crown, Macbeth arranges to have him and his sons killed, but is then haunted by Banquo's ghost. Lady Macbeth is haunted too, but not by a ghost. She keeps seeing blood on her hands and becomes pretty anal retentive about trying to wash them clean. Macbeth is starting to panic and goes to see the witches, who give him a bunch of false reassurances about his kingdom. He can't be harmed by any man born of woman, or until Birnam Wood up and moves. Macbeth thinks that means he's safe forever, but it turns out Macduff, Duncan's son who's been hiding, was born through a C-section and not technically by a woman. He plans to attack the kingdom and disguises his army with branches from Birnam Wood. Thus to the watchman on the castle it looks like the forest up and moved. As the battle rages, Lady Macbeth really freaks and kills herself. Macbeth realizes he is doomed, but continues to fight until Macduff beheads him. The battle ceases, and the benevolent Macduff invites everybody to Scone to watch his coronation, and, well, some of them then live happily ever after. The end.